The Pistons are the basketball champions of the world.
Detroit, it's time. It's playoff time, Detroit. Let's go to work.
Shout out Detroit. I got to buff up, you know what I'm saying? Detroit, I'm all the way in. Detroit Pistons, I'm all the way in. Let's do it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Buff Sound Podcast. We are the best POD in the 313, and we're all back together again. The Heineman brothers are here. I am here. Shout out to the boys for holding down the fort while I was sidelined. But we're back, and we're ready to talk some Pistons basketball. We got some things to touch on today. We're going to talk free agency, signings, waiver claims, extensions. We're also going to talk about some summer league stuff. And the Pistons finally introduced their new head coach of JB Bickerstaff. So we're going to talk about his press conference and any takeaways we may have from that as well. And then we'll talk about what everybody likes to talk about, lineups. And we'll see if JB Bickerstaff has some different ideas in mind. He touched on that a little bit in the presser, but a little more on that later. So with that, we'll jump straight into free agency. The Pistons made some moves. They brought in Tobias Harris on a 2-year, $52 million contract. They brought in Malik Beasley on a 1-year $6, claiming Paul Reed off of waivers from the 76ers. He signed a 3-year $24 last offseason, and now he's in the second year of that. The Pistons also brought back Simone Fontecchio on a 2-year $16, and then the biggest one of them all, becoming the highest paid signed contract in Pistons history. The Pistons have signed Cade Cunningham to a 5-year $224 million contract extension. I just threw a lot at you guys there. Valley, you're the first on my screen. Which one of the free agency signings was your favorite? I'm pretty sure you're going to say the Cade one, but also talk about the new addition that's your favorite and why you think that's going to have the biggest impact on the team this upcoming season.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I do get into it, I just want to say, welcome back, Amit. The Buff Sound Pod and the fans have been missing you, man. It's good that we have the gang back together. It really is good. But actually, I have a bit of a different answer for this. I'm the happiest about the Simone Fontecchio deal. Obviously, I'm like really happy. You know, Cade is here long term. We've given him that bag. I'm really happy we've added some other pieces that I think raises our floor a lot. It might not increase our ceiling to a crazy amount, but our floor has been raised with these other signings. But when I look at Simone Fontecchio, I was prepared to pay this guy $15 million a year. I wasn't really too sure what the market was for him, but I thought it was way higher than what we paid him. Same goes to Malik Beasley on that cheap deal. But $8 million a year for Simone Fontecchio, amazing business. I thought we were going to be double that. He averaged 15 a game for us and shot over 42% from three. Like, that's crazy. And he does it on both ends. He's a big body. I think he gives us a lot of diversity in the lineup because I think he can play 2, 3, or 4. He's a great shooter, especially from that corner, which is so valuable to space that floor. Good athleticism in there as well. He's just a hard player. You know, he's a hard worker. He was loved in Utah, and he instantly was loved here in Detroit. I'm so happy we got him. My only complaint, it's only 2 years. I would have loved a longer term deal, but 2 years, 16 million for Fontecchio, I thought was an absolute steal that not enough people have been talking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's just such a, and I hate to pull up old memories, but it's such like a difference from having Troy Weaver as a GM. Like, we got Fontecchio and Beasley for significantly less than he got Marvin Bagley. Like, it's just is this what like a good front office is? Like, a person that can negotiate and get guys? Because 2 for 16 for Fontecchio, like, so many teams could have gone out and gotten him, I guess. Like, unless he really wants to be in Detroit, there's a lot of teams that could afford that. And Fontecchio is he's a good player. He was one of our. No, he was the. Was he the one non-Cade shooter that we had on the team last year?
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, you could say that.
Grimes, but he shot 14%.
Don't forget how much you guys like Kevin Knox as well.
Oh yeah, Kevin Knox.
Yeah.
I thought he was on the Summer League roster.
He was on the Kings Summer League roster. I thought about you the second I saw him. I was like, that's crazy. Also, Asar Thompson had the highest quarter 3 percentage on the team last year. Does anybody know what it was?
25.
That's really close. It was 23.
There we go. Yeah, just like the improvements all around in the shooting this offseason is insane. Like, trade for Tim Hardaway Jr. Like, again, you're trading Quentin Grimes, but he shot, again, 14% from 3 last year. Malik Beasley, Simone Fontecchio, Tobias Harris. Like, it's all just shooters. Um, but can I go ahead? Because none of those guys are my favorite free agency.
Go ahead.
My favorite free agency pickup might be slightly because of his nickname, but it's B-ball Paul. I know I'm in the minority in this group that I thought we needed another like center or big man just because like when JD was off the court, Stu's a little small. We lacked a little bit of like athleticism or size to play at the five. And I think B-ball Paul can absolutely be that guy. That man is a dog. He's got it in him. He's got like a sneaky high skill set too. Um, some ability to do a little bit of something. I think that will shine a little bit more on the Stones than it did on the 76ers. But something I wanted to draw in was back to that doggedness. He offensive rebounds like a lot. He gets like 2.3 a game, which is a lot for a guy that comes off the bench. And offensive rebound percentage, which is basically the percentage of offensive rebounds you get over the total offensive rebounds while you're on the court. He's third in the NBA. He's behind Clint Capella and Isaiah Hartenstein. Offensive rebounds 13.2% of misses. That is higher than Rudy Gobert, higher than Nikola Jokic, higher than Jared Allen, Yusuf Nurkic, Zubac, higher than Jalen Duren. This man he cleans up, man. He cleans up with energy, skill. I love the Paul Reed pickup. And just that he kind of just like fell into our laps a little bit. Like his contract's a little higher, but it'll fall out before we get into any real contract stuff. So, yeah, huge Paul Reed guy.
I'm with you on that one. I love the Paul Reed pickup. I mean, it's a little weird because Isaiah Stewart 6'8", Paul Reed only comes in at 6'9", so it doesn't feel like we're getting a ton of size there. But like you said, he's got that dog in him. He's just
like a big 6'9".
Exactly. So like he's like, if you watch tape on Paul Reed, he's a pogo stick. He's going after everything. He's jumping after everything. He's not the most athletic, but he makes up for it with the effort. Also, he didn't shoot a ton of threes. I think he was averaging less than 1 3 per game, but he shot like 37% on threes last year too. So not totally out of the question for him to space the floor. Above all that, still only 25 years old. For everybody's like, oh, he's too old. We're past that now. Like he's still 25 years old. He's a good backup center. I bring up this question though: if Paul Reed is in, does that mean Isaiah Stewart is out?
That's what
Not
Gabe
at
seems
all.
to think.
Not at all.
Yeah, that's I kind of think he either does not have a role on this team if Stewart is here, or he is the role when Stewart is gone if we do make that move for Ingram.
You say
I
he doesn't
don't
have a role. Like, are you gonna survive? Like, Stu and Duran right now are the only two bigs.
Yeah, I think we're in desperate need of a big, and you see the overlap between Stu and Duran. So who's going to be the backup? Like we can't rule Stu starting again and Duran. We
No,
can't rule that out.
There's
I
big man minutes to be had.
Mm-hmm.
we're no longer under the hostage situation that was Monty Williams, so Stewart and Duran won't be starting together every game.
I wouldn't be so
I
sure.
assume. But Stu as a backup five, I think, is an elite backup five. He has range that Paul Reed doesn't have. He has more defensive prowess than Paul Reed. He's not as good of a dog inside just because, I don't know, that's just not what he does, really. But sure, like Paul Reed has like a 2.5 kind of. He's not a third strings strictly, I'd say.
No,
But
he's not. I mean, he was the backup for Joel Embiid on a competing 76ers team. Embiid went down and Paul Reed was starting.
Yeah, but they chose to get Andre Drummond over him. So that kind of says a little bit. And his contract is not guaranteed after this year. So I think, at least I think. So I mean, he can be off the books next year if we want, or we trade him and some other team, wipes away the contract. So for me, he's kind of like, he's a good pickup. I agree. It's just another smart move to do. It doesn't really move the needle for me. I think I'm in agreement with Valley here that Fontecchio at that deal is just crazy when you think of like we could have rushed and gotten him an extension, like we did with Bagley, where like we're just against ourselves. And for me, him and Beasley, me and Valley were talking a little bit about this. Like is the starting two spot, is that Jaden Ivey again, or are we gonna get one of these vets that can really shoot up into that starting two spot on the team? For me, I guess I probably want Ivy still just for the creation. And if he can actually play defense or shoot this year, which would be nice. But what do you guys think? Starting two guard?
So before I answer that question, I want to touch on something else you talked about on Isaiah Stewart. Stewart is one of our more switchable bigs, and I think that that's what's keeping him on the roster right now. JP Bickerstaff said in his press conference yesterday that he in Cleveland, they had trouble with Isaiah Stewart because he's able to switch everything. And with JP Bickerstaff being a defensive-minded, defensive-first coach, I think Stu is safe for now, which unfortunately might mean that if we do make a trade for a guy like Brandon Ingram, like you're saying, Game, Jalen Duren may be the guy on the way out, which I really don't want to do. But moving back towards your question of the starting two guard, you're going to need shooting somewhere. And I was listening to the Pistons Pulse podcast, and they had the same discussion. Bryce even said that he doesn't want to have Asar and Duren on the court together at the same time, which is interesting. But I don't think we need that handicap. So I think unless you're willing to run it with Marcus Sasser as your backup point guard, Jaden Ivey starts. I mean, that's the only way to look at it right now because we don't have a true backup point guard yet.
I do agree with you. I mean, and I want to touch on one other thing that Bickerstaff said is he mentioned how he wants to turn Cade into an elite player, elite two-way player, and he also noted the comparison between Ivy Cade and the Mitchell Garland backcourt, where he spoke on when he was in Cleveland with Mitchell and Garland. They both started, they both ended the game together, and at least one of them was on the court at all times. And he said this while speaking about Jaden Ivey. So I think he's thinking Ivy's going to start. He praised him a lot more than Monty did all season, honestly. I think it's Ivy's spot right now. We'll get into the lineups later. I think it's going to be really interesting what we do when we choose to do with our spacing. Asar Duren would be interesting, and then if you're not starting Asar, Asar and Holland are going to be together. Do you want that? We'll get into these lineups in a bit, but I do think it is Ivy's at least to start the season.
Agreed. Any other notes on free agency signings before we move into the JB Bickerstaff press conference?
Yeah, just more on that two guard thing. I think the starter is Malik Beasley. This man started like last year for the Milwaukee Bucks, which is a far better. Well, obviously they just like sort of needed a guy to fill in that spot, but it's a far better team than the Pistons are. And honestly, I think Ivy would be better suited, but also have a better opportunity coming off the bench. The thing with like Mitchell and Garland is like Val, you said, they were like heavily staggered. Like Cleveland was best when they ran basically like one of their bigs, like Jared Allen or Evan Mobley, with one of their guards, and then the other pairing of them like staggering 1 and 2. I think that's something we're going to see maybe with Cade and Ivy, unless Ivy becomes like a significantly better shooter. But I think just like giving him the runway as a backup point guard to like more like play his game, play like sort of maybe switch the tempo, like go a lot more sped up with the second unit, could throw some teams off. I like to see him in the backup role and let him like free a little more and then play more of like a role player guy that's just going to be out there to space the floor in the starting unit. But with Asar Thompson, if we're talking about like not playing him with Duren, seeing some issues there. Remember last year, the Rockets, they really took off when Alperen Şengün got injured, and they moved Amen Thompson, Asar's twin, to basically play the center position. Is that something that you guys could see Asar doing? I know like it would free up a lot more with him, like if there was like a trade where Stu went out or one of our bigs went out, but like Asar at the 5, we just do like an ultra switchable lineup with like Cade, 3 big shooters, Asar, and then he on offense plays the role of like dunker spot, roll man, and then defensively just like switch everything. How do you guys feel about that?
I think we touched on that a little bit last year too. Go ahead.
But like I feel like it works more now because we have shooters
Mm-hmm.
to put around it.
I still think you need Stu in that situation. I just think defensively, if you're going up against any competent big man, you're going to get wrecked on the boards. You're going to get wrecked. And I think you can run that with Stu. We'll get into the lineups later. But I think if Stu, well, he shot 37%, he was arguably our best 3-point shooter on both percentage and attempts. There's no reason not to have him on the court. Sit him in the corner and he'll knock down his shots. I think I'm very intrigued as the star as a roller aspect. I mean, we've been crying for that. And sure, run him as a 5 on offense, no problem. But you need Stu out there for defense. And I don't think defensively, even though it's switchable, I don't think you can run that defensively against any competent big man.
I don't know, like how many big men like are punishing you that hard?
Asar's a skinny guy, man.
Yeah, sure, but like
boards. How are we gonna get boards?
team effort. You know who else shot 37% from three as a 4-5 last year? B-ball Paul.
On what one? On
This
less
guy's
than one.
the ugliest jumper I've ever
He
seen.
took 50. He was 21 for 57 in the year.
Okay, and he played 57 games?
Look, all I'm saying, like, it was less than one a game, but still hit him when he took him. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, we have options again. I think we all got. I mean, I did a little bit last year when we brought in guys like Joe Harris. I was like, oh man, we're gonna have so many options with these lineups. I think they're more competent. The options are more competent this year. I'm ready to see whatever JB Bickerstaff has. I do want to see more of Asar Thompson rolling. I do want to see him more in a dunker spot, especially if that shot is not coming along as well as we would hope. Hopefully, Fred Vinson is in the lab with Asar Thompson right now. While we're on the topic of Asar Thompson, he is cleared for basketball activities again. He was just cleared a couple of days ago. Trajan said it in his press conference yesterday with JB Bickerstaff. So I'm excited to see what we do with Asar Thompson, especially, we if you look at what other teams are doing, right? Because everyone said it's a copycat league, right? The Celtics in the finals were actually putting a guy like Drew Holiday in the dunker spot just to throw off defenses. So who knows what we could see? If Cade's off ball, you may be able to see a guy like Cade in the dunker spot, a bigger guard who can clear the lane. And if Ivy's driving down the lane, the help side defender is going to come over. Ivy just drops it off to Cade. That's an easy layup, right? Like, there's so many options that we have right now. But back to your point, Connie, I would love to see more of Asar at the 5 offensively. I do have the questions defensively. You're right. Not a lot of teams are going to be coming at you that way if Asar's at the 5. But at the same time, teams like to exploit mismatches, which is kind of like the main thing I feel like teams do. And I feel like that's what's going to happen if we throw Asar at the 5. But if it happens, I'm not going to hate it. What else do you want to talk about free agency wise, or we can move into the Bickerstaff / lineup conversation? Because we've been dancing around the edge of the lineup conversation for a minute.
Yeah, real quick, before we get into that more, I just want to touch on the Cade extension again. To have our guy here for another, 5 years now is massive. He's the first like extension we've had in how long of an actual like player that we want here. We all knew it would be a max when you look at the other guys in his year. Wagner got it. Who's the other guy?
Not Jalen Green.
Scotty Barnes.
No, not Jalen Green.
Evan Mobley is expected to get it.
Yeah, but
Scotty
just to have him. Who?
Scotty Barnes.
Oh yeah, Scotty Barnes is the other guy. That's the guy. And so just to have him here for another 5 years is absolutely huge and just the right move to make. That there's no like, oh, let's offer him a little bit less. He hasn't proven anything really. And Valley, the quote you said earlier in the pod where Bickerstaff said we want to make him one of the best two-way players in the league. I think it's the first time I ever heard somebody talk about like his defense is always just like surrounded with shooters, give him spacing, let's see what he can do offensive with the ball in his hand. To have him be a two-way player is like what you actually need for him to win games because he has all the tools. So I'm really interested to see now Cade on the defensive end because we always talk about what he could be. In order to make these lineups work and to like not have a weak link at him being like 6'6", 7 at the point. That's really what I think the key will be to his defensive development. I think, and off of that, if you guys agree or not, I think this is kind of the year whether we figure out if Cade is that guy that we like build around, or do we still need that A1, head of the snake guy.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, I love locking Cade down. I know there were people out there that were upset about it, or maybe probably non-Pistons fans. They were like, "Why the hell is this guy in a losing team getting a max contract?" But we all know, man. We know.
If you watch the game, if you watch basketball, you know why this man got the max. Like he's worth every cent of that contract, especially if he's gonna be, surrounded with shooters now. Connie, we'll go to you now. Were there any quotes from the Bickerstaff press conference that stood out to you?
I like that he had like a good intention of like the way he was going to use Ivy, right? Like it's such a juxtaposition of what Monty wanted to bury him. Was more interested in playing Killian Hayes. Like JB Bickerstaff talking about getting Ivy the ball in like the right spots, like not just using him like an engine, but getting the ball to him on the move, like talking about fast breaks. Like he's the fastest guy out there, getting him being the guy that the outlet goes to, and then he can run it, like he can just like run it down the other team's throat before anybody can really do anything about it if he's got his hips squared to the hoop. I like that he had like some intention with Ivy, and it seems like he's got a plan for how he's going to use him and set him up for success. That was something that I really liked. Yeah.
Agreed. And I mean, we're the Buffs on pod here. I got a toot our own horn. Gabe brought up some free agents when we were talking about potential free agents we could bring in. Malik Beasley was one of the names he brought up, and we all said we would love Malik Beasley on this team. Malik Beasley now on this team. I think I said it, and we all agreed a long time ago. I said I'd love to see Jaden Ivey catch the ball on the move more. JB Bickerstaff now saying he wants Jaden Ivey to catch the ball on the move more. So it's great to see that.
Charge.
Yeah, right. Like it's great to see that, Asar rolling. We've been saying we want to see Asar as a roller, so hopefully we can get more of that too. So, one thing that stood out to me from this press conference is it just felt different than the Monty Williams press conference. I don't know how to describe it. It just felt this one felt more like JB had put more thought into what he wants to do, and it feels like he wants to be here. As much as I would have loved Monty
he got paid to be here or not?
Yeah, exactly. So as much as I wanted Monty Williams to work out here, it's great to have a guy like JB Bickerstaff who's ready to work. And someone asked him, like, your dad was such a great head coach. If you have learned anything, what is the Bickerstaff like thing when you come to coaching? He says, to be honest. And I think that's what this team needs. I mean, when you're 14-68, you're going to need somebody to be honest with you on how you're going to improve. And I think that motto is gonna hold true, and it's gonna be really helpful to this young team as we try to get older. Valley, what about you? What stood out to you from the Bickerstaff press conference?
What stood out the most to me was his I don't know, his focus on getting this team into a good position. And he said in the pod, he thinks he said in his press conference that he's the right guy for this because he showed what he can do in Cleveland. He took that team from a 22-win team to a 51-win team in absolutely no time. And he also noted that he said that there's some high level, high ceiling potential guys. It's our responsibility to help get them there. This really excites me, along with the fact that he spoke on adding this veteran talent, can really help this team make significant leaps and bounds. I think we're going to get really good meshing between the youth of this team, your Sars, your Hollands, your Cades, your Ivies, with the older guys being like a Tim Hardaway or Tobias Harris. I think there's a really good balance now, and I think Bickerstaff really hit home on that. But on top of that, just like how hungry he was to be here. He said he got a call from Trajan at 11 p.m. 2 nights before he was heading out. And he said, I don't know if I'll be able to make it. And so he drove that exact same night up to get an interview. It just means like he wants this job, and and it's just a complete parallel of Monty openly saying the money to his press conference about a year ago to this date. Like you said, it's refreshing, and I've seen clips of of JV Bickerstaff getting tossed out of games because he's standing up for his players who aren't getting calls. Just it seems like we really have a coach who wants to be here and wants to be with this team. I think it took a long time. I mean, obviously joking. I think it took a long time for Monty to even get to know the guys by their names or something. It just felt like that sometimes. It just feels like the complete opposite with Bickerstaff. I really hope we don't get fooled again by a coach in a front office, but something feels different this time. Something really does.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna stay away from this field different too much because I think I've been hurt by that every time we have a change of regime. But I'm eager to see how this Bickerstaff and Langdon duo works out. Is there anything else that stood out to you guys from the press conference, or we can now touch on the lineups?
One more real quick thing. To have a head of basketball ops who can like talk and like express what he wants to do and his plans and his like love for the team is really nice to have. Like, no hate on Weaver, but like he could not like talk or like say what he wanted to like say. And like now we see him in Washington kind of doing the old Pistons play with like Sadiq Bey and
Can we talk about that real quick?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. He's bringing the game back.
Brings back Sadiq Bey. They draft a guy that's probably best at center, and they instantly bring in two more centers. Like
and stealing a guy that Langdon would probably go after in Jonas Valanciunas because he only got 3 years, 30, which was probably exactly what we would be looking for.
They traded probably one of the guys that's going to be like a competent NBA player in Danny Avdija for another pick in what every other GM is called like the worst draft in years. Like it's just he's just going right back. Like no lessons learned. He's like I was right and something went wrong in Detroit and I'm going to do the exact same thing in Washington.
Hey, it works out for us because the Pistons need to leapfrog some teams if we're going to climb the Eastern Conference. The Wizards, if you want to keep dropping, we'll take it. We will for sure take it.
Check this out. Speaking of Sadiq Bey,
we
got that signed
jersey.
Are you giving it away on the pod, Valley? Is that what we're advertising here?
I would not be hurt if I was to give you away.
Oh wait,
giveaway.
Can we do that, Valley?
You want to do that?
Let's do it. Let's do it. I'd be
giveaway. You have to be following, like have it be like they gotta be following the Instagram, make them like the post, and then out of the 10 people that
share,
we can choose.
Oh yeah, you got to donate $100 to the Buff Sound podcast, and we'll get you
or sharing your story or something.
Share your story. There was one other thing I wanted to mention on the Bickerstaff press conference. Gabe, what were you talking about? God, it was so good too.
Cade's defense?
No, it was after that. It was right before we went on the Sadiq Bey tangent.
I have a GM who like talks openly and clearly about his plans and his love for the team.
Yeah, exactly. It was something like that. But anyway, we'll move on from that. Sadiq Bey heading to the. I mean, they also got Marvin Bagley over there too. So hopefully we see Malcolm Brogdon and front court of Sadiq Bey and Marvin Bagley too. Isaiah Livers can run the 3 too. Jordan Poole at the 2. So
I bet he was upset that he missed out on Big Wise.
Exactly. He's probably so angry about it. But Big Wise headed to Indiana. I saw a clip of him draining threes from the corner the other day. So, Andre Drummond summer workouts all over the place. Any other notes on the press conference? If it comes back to me, I'll say what I was thinking. But any other notes on that before we move into lineups? All right, let's run it. I started with Gabe last time. So, Valley, you're starting this time. Give me your starting 5.
Oh, man. My predicted starting 5 or my starting 5?
All right, go both. We'll go both.
All right, prediction. Cade, Ivy, Duren at the 5, and I think the 2 wings got to be Tobias, and I think it's going to be Asar. My starting 5, Cade, Malik Beasley, Cade, Beasley, Simone, Fontek, Duren.
Simone and Fontek?
Both of them?
At the
Okay,
same
guys, shut
time.
up. You get okay. Cade, Beasley, Fontecchio, Harris, Duran.
All right, I can see that. I can see that. You got Beasley over Hardaway?
I do, yes.
Okay. I mean, the only thing that's holding me back on the Beasley starting thing is his defense. He is very prone to getting blown by, and there's a
We
lot.
benched Fence, man. It's not like Ivy can play any.
Yeah. Hey, I'll give more effort to Ivy than I will to Beasley. So that's the only reason I got Ivy above Beasley. Connie, give me your starting five and what you think the starting five will be.
I think it will be Cade. I think it'll be Cade Beasley. Basically what Valley said he wanted his lineup to be.
Mhm.
I think Asar Thompson is most effective if he plays as a starter because then his defense and his like sort of connectivity comes in. We got to
Mhm.
keep that shooting out there. Ugh, I don't know. So I'm gonna go Cade, Asar, Tech, Harris, Duran.
Ooh, okay, bump a star up one. I
Like a
like that.
lot of size, like that. We play a big ass lineup and just
Yeah,
bully some people.
no
You
one
think
smaller than 6'6".
two non-shooters though is gonna fly?
Like I think it works in a way. One, shout out Fred Vinson. If he could push that, if he could push that 22 to 23 to 30, massive difference. Also, I think Asar is unlike a lot of other non-shooters, like not like guards that you play like for their defensive prowess, in that he also has like immense skill in finding the cracks and the crevices, making like that extra pass, finding the cutting lane, offensive rebounding, like being in the right spots. He could be great at running the fast break. I think there's ways to fit him in. I think you have shooting. Cade improved crazy as a shooter last year. I think we can all say that. I expect that to continue and maybe even progress. Then Tech and Harris are, I think, proven shooters. And then, yeah, the issue would be Duran, also being a non-shooter, but as a center. Like, I think it could have some problems. And if it does have some problems, you just sub Asar out for.
Any other shooters? I mean, Beasley or Hardaway or Sasser. You really wanted to?
Yeah, you guys don't know I'm not a big Sasser guy, but yeah.
You are not. This is true. Uh,
Maybe even, at the two guard, if you need shooting, like I already said it, but you also said like when Embiid went down, Paul Reed started center, and in those starting minutes, taking over a three a game, D-ball Paul shot 40% from three. So maybe he's like a viable option at the two guard there. I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm kidding,
Also, yeah, go ahead.
kidding, obviously, but no, you just plug in one of those two. But I think it like that. I think I don't know. I'll let you guys go first, but I feel like we agree on Cade, Tech, Harris, Duran, and then it's like the two guard position is where you can really switch it up.
Mix and
Unless
match.
somebody else does something else.
Gabe, go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah. It's like Connie said, it's Cade, Tech, Toby, Duran, and then I do have Ivy at the two, just because I think if it's Beasley, then it's once again kind of ball in Cade's hands, create for us. Um, I think having two creators on the starting lineup is very important, and I just think Asar didn't like prove enough offensively, I think, to like be a mod. Like he was a large part of the spacing issue, and I just think him like Valley you mentioned earlier, him and Stu together when Stu can play the five defensively and Asar can play the five offensively off the bench. I think that's going to be a great combination to have and really like have our bench come in and kind of be enforcers. And I say this, I think almost every pod. I really want the starting lineup to be flexible based on who we're playing. Are we playing the Nuggets? Maybe start Stu. Are we playing Golden State? Maybe start Stu for Duran instead of for Tobias Harris. And so like we're having these conversations now, and I think for the first time, it's because we have players who are useful rather than players who stink, and we're trying to decide who's worse, Killian Hayes or Marcus Sasser, right? Um, and I want to even go as far to say that I think Ron Holland has a chance to start more than Asar Thompson just because I think he's more offensively ready. Like me and Valley talked, we had this little quote where I think Ron Holland, Asar Thompson finds the cracks in the offense. Ron Holland makes those cracks, and he's more of a creator that can drive and kick and just use his explosiveness to actually score. Where Asar uses his explosiveness to kind of play defense or be that dunking spot. So I think if Ron Holland, maybe let's say halfway through the season, I think it could be Cade, Fontecchio, Holland, Tobias Harris, Duran for just more size and creation.
Okay. So, I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat as you guys. My only thing is I really, really want to start Asar for his defense. Like, we saw what he did against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. We saw what he did in 11 minutes against Luka Doncic. So if you're going to start, whether it is Cade, Ivy, Cade Fontecchio, regardless of who it is, if Asar's not in the starting lineup, who's guarding the other team's best player, in your guys' opinion? If
Probably
Asar's not in the
Fontecchio.
starting, are you okay with that?
It depends. If it's like a Jason Tatum versus like a Jimmy Butler, I guess probably not. If it's like Devin Booker, I'd be okay with it. I just think if Cade and Duran and Fontecchio can't play defense enough to be a decent lineup, then you probably need a new five, or Cade has to actually if you always have to have a defensive guy next to him, it kind of makes us as a lineup worse. So I think while we still suck, may as well not have to put in that stopgap because the star will stop the offense.
Very true. I'm still in the camp of I want to start Asar Thompson just for his defense, because if we're gonna do, I think I'll go Cade, Ivy, Asar, Tobias, Duran. I know it's super close to last year, but I think we need Asar's defense in there. And then if you're gonna sub out Cade, I think Cade gets subbed out first, and then Ivy can play the entire first quarter, or either or. You could just do either or, so that one of them, like Bickerstaff said, is on the floor at all time. My point is then you can alternate Asar and Holland so that you still have that one super bouncy, energetic, defensive-minded player that's always in there. But if Ron Holland cannot hit catch and shoots at a semi-respectable clip, I think he falls out of the rotation for a little while. That's the only thing I'm afraid of. But I am on the boat of I think Holland is more offensively ready than Asar is, so I can definitely see what you guys are saying about how Holland could definitely sneak into the starting lineup over Asar. Any other notes on the rotation? No love for Tim Hardaway Jr. yet, huh?
Yeah, I was about to. Go ahead, Connie.
5 minutes. It'll be starter, it'll be off the bench. He's gonna be on the court in some way or another, whether it's a smaller 3 or a 2. He's just gonna fit in somewhere.
All right, yeah, I'm gonna throw 9 names out: Cade, Ivy, Tech, Toby, Duran, Ron Holland, Stewart, Asar, and Beasley. Those guys are all gonna get minutes, yes?
Yeah.
Damn,
So that's a 9-man rotation, huh?
you're missing a name.
I know, exactly. So that's a 9-man rotation, which is already a pretty good rotation.
Mm-hmm.
And we have THJ, who I didn't even mention because I think he's absolutely washed. He's gonna be this year Joe Harris. And then we have B-Ball Paul, Marcus Sasser, and Bobby Clintman. Of those guys,
Right. Forget Bobby Clinton, bro. He's gonna be on the Rapids Drive. I'll tell you that right now. He's gonna be on the Grand Rapids Drive. Something to think about. Something that we were very familiar with last year. The Pistons played the most players ever for a Piston season.
Mm-hmm.
It's not gonna be healthy guys all the way through the season. Like we're not just gonna have our starting lineup and our backups. Like we go, as Gabe just said, we go at least like. I mean, it's not like a great 11 deep, but 11 deep, right? Like
Mhm.
if you think THJ can give you anything anymore, like these things are gonna shift and change. But I think those 9 that you said, Gabe, are probably the guys that are gonna play minutes. And I would like I don't think Holland falls out. Maybe he does. Man, this conversation is making me kind of want to buy a gaming system again and buy 2K, just so I can do the my league and run the Pistons again. Let's bring back some stuff.
I'll
I
tell
want to
you
do
this.
minute sliders right now.
2K keeps offering me Tobias Harris and a first for OG Anunoby. So I kind of ruined every time I start the franchise because I'm like, just give me OG, it's fine. Um,
Oh, and
but
we still have the second most cap space remaining.
Mhm.
Right? So either that's going to be a big salary in our trade, Brandon Ingram, who will be a Piston before season starts, or we sign another guy and we waive that guy we got from Minnesota or something.
Wendell Moore Jr. also just added to the summer league roster, so I'm assuming that means he's not even close to sniffing the rotation right now.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah. Any other notes on the rotation Bickerstaff press conference before we move into what we want to see out of summer league?
Just real quick,
Go.
You said Amit that you could see Holland falling out of the rotation. Gabe and Val, do you guys see that? Do you guys think Holland has a role on this squad upcoming year?
I I think he does. I think it'll be sporadic. I think there might be times we honestly don't see him, and I don't think it's out of the question that he plays some G League minutes. But I think the big concern I have with his minutes is I don't think he can play next to a Sar and or Duran. Like I just think you need the spacing around him, and I think that's where the big question is. And the big question is about his shooting. You know, if that's there, then he can. But as of right now, I like you play a lineup with the Sar and Duran, no chance he sees the floor. Even maybe just one of those guys. You can't have one and a half or two non-shooters next to him. Maybe even one non-shooter next to him. I think, in my opinion.
That's fair.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I think he does play for development, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's in the G League as well, just to have some reps.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was already there for what, 2 years before in the G League, so
I
you know,
think he's proven everything he needs to prove in the G League, though. I mean, he averaged 20 points a game, 5 assists, 5 rebounds, right? Like I feel like he's proven what he needs to prove, except that he can hit the three. And I think being on an NBA court with NBA players, NBA spacing, I think that will help. I mean, his catch and shoot numbers in the G League, if I recall, were not great. I think it was 27%, something like that. So, I mean, but at the same time, I feel like NBA offseason, you're going to get reps in Summer League. You're going to work with Fred Vinson. You're going to have Cade Cunningham putting the ball. And of course, we missed this. When we talk about Simone Fontecchio wanting to come back, he said when he got here, Cade is the only guy that he's ever played with, not just point guard, any guy he's ever played with that asked him where he wants to catch the ball so he can get into a shooting pocket. If Cade can hit Holland where he wants it, just make it that much easier for him. He doesn't have to reach out of the pocket to make the catch. He's standing in the corner and can just be a guy playing reckless, just popping threes from the corner. Hey, I don't see why he can't stick around. But say something miraculous happens. Say we do start playing competitive basketball and we're competing for something, and Ron Holland's shooting is holding us back and he's not making up for it with his defensive effort. Yeah, then I can see him going to the Cruise for sure. Any other notes, Holland? Anything else before we move into Summer League? Because I think that's a good transition.
can I give you 3 free agents that are left, and you guys tell me which one you like?
Hey, you did it the last time, and we actually got one or two of them. So let's run it.
So as another point guard, there's Tyus Jones, probably the best player left.
I don't think he comes here because I think he stated that he wanted to be a starter.
Also a non-shooter or a limited shooter.
He's a 41% 3-point shooter. He just doesn't take too many. Anyway,
Yeah.
Gary Trent Jr., Good little
I'd be
scoring.
okay with that.
Who?
Gary Trent Jr. You know, like, what about Isaac Okoro as a 3-and-D wing?
JB Bickerstaff's former friend.
Yeah, how many? I mean, how many
Also,
non-shooting
tell him
defensive
age,
wings?
bring him in. And then two more guys here as another big Precious Achua. And
I would
then
not be mad at that at all. I wanted Precious Achua for a minute.
same, yeah. How about the old vet himself, Kyle Lowry,
Kyle
as
Lowry.
an infielder?
I
I
would
would-
love
The guys left. I love Kyle
That would be my number one guy.
on the vet minimum, even that.
I'd love that, actually. No question. Having a guy like Kyle Lowry who's been everywhere, done many things, played with so many great players, like, yeah. Like, if you want to come to Detroit, I mean, there's the ties. Dwayne Casey's still in the front office, and he's turned down 2 coaching jobs to stick in his front office role with Detroit. If Kyle Lowry wants to hang out with his old friend Dwayne Casey, I'm not going to be mad at it. Out of those guys, I don't think any of them are really realistic. I think we're saving our cap space to be a part of a trade, whether that be the third team to facilitate a Brandon Ingram trade, whether we are the guys getting Ingram or, helping another team get him. Or if another miracle happens, Larry Markkinen is finally let out of Utah, then yeah, I can see us joining in there. What trade was it? The Spurs were in it. Who just got traded? Oh, the DeRozan trade. I thought we were going to sneak in on the DeRozan trade, but I think we're holding our bullets for something else. So let's see what comes out of it, because we're fairly content with this roster that we have right now. There could be one other guy coming in that we're not thinking of right now. And another note on THJ, I think he is in the rotation simply for the fact that he's still on the roster. I feel like it would have come out already that the Pistons are already planning to waive Tim Hardaway Jr. if he wasn't planning on being on the rotation. So that's all I got on that. But should we jump to Summer League?
Let's go.
All right, let's run with it. I started with Valley last time. We'll start with Gabe this time. What's one thing you want to see from Summer League?
Dasser absolutely dominate. Is he on the roster?
He is on the roster, I believe. Yes.
First of all, that's surprising a little bit. Second of all, I want him to dominate. Play one game and then not play again. I don't think he should be in this. And then
he is on the roster.
Yeah, so once he plays this game and drops whatever 38, I want Ron Holland to not be G League, he had the ball in his hands at all time and was just a creator.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want to see how he plays off ball. I don't know if we have another point guard on that roster, but I'd just like to see him as like a slasher scorer.
We are very guard heavy on this roster. Dennis Jenkins, the 2-way guard that we brought in. Aaron Estrada as another shooting guard. Wendell Moore Jr. will probably also get some point guard minutes. I do think that Sasser plays at least 2 games because if they're trying to increase his point guard ability, I think they would want to see what he can do in terms of facilitation before we entirely rule out that he can be a 1 and he's just a 2.
Yeah, so him and Ron Holland just kind of beat some people up. I've watched a few games. There's not much defense going on. There's not much offense here, to be honest.
Did anybody catch the Utah-Memphis game?
Where Zach Edey went crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah, how about that Zach Edey, by the way? My rookie of the
I knew
year.
you were going to do that. I was going to throw it in your face, too. He missed a game-winning dunk, okay?
Yeah, he did off the back.
Well, I'm not going to skip over that.
Made up for it.
I guess. What a miss by LaRavia, by the way.
Yeah, good miss. Yeah, so that's what I'm watching for. I don't think we're going to win many games this year, but just a Ron Holland experience, I guess.
I think we could beat the 76ers team based on what I've seen. I think we can beat them. The only problem we're going to have is at the 5 because I don't know his name. He's from Nigeria, but the center they have is going to totally just demolish any center we currently have.
Adam Bono, right?
Yeah,
Bona.
yeah. I've loved everything I've seen from him to this point. It's amazing. Even his free throws look pretty decent. So I'm high on him. I like him a lot. I think that's why they let Paul Reed go. They're gonna bring this dude up, just have him yam on everybody. Anything else from you, Gabe, or we'll move on to Connie?
Nope, that's all.
Sweet. Connie, what are you looking for in this summer league?
Ron Holland dunks. I don't really care what happens, like who scores what. It almost never translates. I want to see some Ron Holland dunks. I want to see him bang on somebody, get one off an offensive rebound, some fast break stuff. I just want to see some. I'll say it. I say it again. Some Ron Holland dunks. That's just what I want to see. I don't really care about what else happens.
Fair enough.
Maybe hit a shot. Maybe hit a shot or two. Too. That would be cool.
Just one or two? That's fine.
Yeah, one or two.
That's fine. That's all Lasar hit and in the entirety of last season, so I guess that's fair. Valley, what do you want to see?
I'm all eyes on Ron Holland. I'm not particularly sure what I want to see other than like the obvious, like let me see him bang out on someone. Let me see him hit some catch and shoot threes. I'm gonna be interested in his explosiveness. We watched a video game when we were in Montana. It really noted on his quick first step he has when he was the lead ball handler. But to be honest, I'm just gonna be looking at Holland, and I honestly couldn't care about anything else. I don't think Bobby Clinton will be sorry, Bobby. I don't think he'll be a big player on this team. I'll be happy to watch Marcus Sasser. Don't get me wrong, for however long that will be. But I don't know. Which I guess it's encouraging, but there's a lot less people to look out for in the summer league. With Asar not playing and other guys not playing, it's kind of just like, who are these guys? And I'm just gonna be watching Holland the whole time and seeing how he plays.
That's fair. Just to change it up from you guys, because you guys are just fake fans and just want to see dunks. I'm gonna say that I want to see Bobby Clinton hit some threes. He shot 37% overseas. I want to see how he does in the summer league. I feel like there could be some Stanley Amude minutes for him this season. Also, Stanley Amude just went to the Bucks, so shout out Stanley Amude.
Yeah, for real.
But he did an interview with somebody. I forget who it was, but he said his comps were Tobias Harris. I forget who the second guy he said was, but it was Tobias Harris, somebody else, and Nick Batum. If he can turn into a Nick Batum type player, I'm fine with that. He thinks he can do everything. He might be a little overconfident. He might have his welcome to the NBA moment and get humbled. He's like, yeah, I can play make. I can do this. I can do that. I feel like my vertical got better as I got stronger, and I'm like, I don't know about all that, brother, but if you can stand and hit some threes, I'm happy with it. So I want to see Bobby Clinton hit some threes in the summer league. Any other notes on the team? Anything we've talked about before we get on out of here? Because I'm pretty sure we're running really long today.
40 wins.
Let's hold off. We can do a preseason prediction later.
A little teaser. All right, I like it.
I want to see how Bobby Clinton holds up against like a little bit more athleticism too.
Yeah, and strength for sure, because he's not super strong from what I've seen.
Yeah, I want to plant my flag on this as well. I think Clinton is going to be a solid NBA player, and I think he's going to. I'm not sure how we dropped so far. I'm going to be honest. When the whole wants a 6'10" guy who can pass, shoot, and dribble, and play defense. So I think he's going to be a good player. Probably won't go as far as Valley and you did on Killian Hayes if he's not that guy, but I'm gonna plant a flag on the island, buy a little land, and think it's a good investment.
I'll join you on the island of the Bobby Clinton support crew. Not Killian Hayes level.
One more thing, because this was great. This is completely unrelated to anything basketball, so if you have anything else to say, go ahead.
No, run it.
Okay, so how about this as a nickname / pun for Ron Holland? If he like crosses a guy up and we could say he's saucy, you could call him Ron Hollandaise.
I'm there for it.
Because it's actually spelling, just add little A's to the end. And
that's fine.
We have beef stew, Ron Hollandaise, of course, Cunningham, Malik Beefy, Tobias Carrots, and so all in all, it's a beef stew.
What was your Malik Beasley?
Malik Beefy.
Really... What is that move? What is that move called that he does after he hits a three?
Oh, the thug shake.
The thug shake. Yeah, there you go. That's a food right there. It's thug shake.
Malik.
I could see I could see Johnny Kane whipping a few of those out, but never George.
No, George is. Yeah, I mean, we're gonna get a rim grazer, and he's gonna call
Jalen
it
Durian, like
Jalen Doritos.
like
I like Jalen Doritos. All right, we'll come back on this one. Everybody's got to come up with a new nickname before the next pod. How about that?
All right.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. If you're still with us, we appreciate you listening to this episode of the Buff Sound Podcast. Make sure you follow us on all social media platforms. We're approaching 150 subscribers on YouTube. So if you want to be a part of the crew, come get it. And maybe not. Maybe Valley's going to give away a Sadiq Bey jersey. We'll get back to you on that one. But until next time.
If you subscribe.
Yeah, you got to subscribe, and maybe you'll be entered into a bowl to win Sadiq Bey, because I know how much you guys love Sadiq Bey.
How about follow us, subscribe, and reshare like on your Instagram story, and you're in the raffle.
And donate $100. But until next time, know the Buffs on Detroit. The future is bright.